Well, Eric, thank you so much for helping with my project. Could we start off by you saying a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I'm retired and um, have met your your uncle, I guess, Kent. Is that right? Yeah.
That's right.
Through church, and we've been close friends. Who asked me if I'd be interested in being interviewed by his nephew and about the American space program, I guess, the World Space Program. And I said, "Oh, sure, I'd love to talk about that."
Well, I really appreciate that. And let's see, where do you live, and what are some of your hobbies?
Okay. Well, since I retired, I live in Austin, Texas, but it's too hot down there now. Since I retired, I come up to Minnesota for a few months to escape that heat. And I'm still up in Minnesota right now, where it's about 66 degrees and sunny skies. A little windy today, but otherwise really nice.
Where in Minnesota do you go?
Well, I have an apartment here in Aiken, Minnesota, which is the north part of the state. Just all kinds of state parks and beautiful lakes, and not far from Lake Superior, so I get up there once in a while. And just a real nice part of the country to be in the summertime. In the wintertime, not so much.
My boss and the rest of my team are in Minneapolis, so I go to Minneapolis about maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and some of those times do fall in the winter. And I know exactly what you're talking about. The temperature is so cold, your body doesn't even have a sense of coldness.
Yeah, I spent my first let's see, I spent 21 cold winters in Minnesota before I got an opportunity to go south and went to Texas. But it's just, I can't take the heat anymore in the summertime. So come up here and enjoy the beautiful weather up here.
I know 66 sounds wonderful. The AC is on all day long, and I'm lucky to get it down to 70.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I've lived in Houston several times too. So yeah, it's even hotter there than Austin, I think, or at least it used to be.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I haven't been to Austin in a while, but it definitely feels hard to compare with.
Yep.
So the first question was, did you know that NASA is planning to send people back to the moon in 2024?
Yes, and I'm very excited that the SpaceX Starship might be one of the lunar landers that are used for that mission, or it's for one of those missions to the return to the moon. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm a big fan of SpaceX, and I'm often curious in what do other people know about it. So maybe you could talk about some of the things you've been tracking regarding SpaceX.
Well, I read Elon Musk's biography, and he seemed to have, for all of his companies, seems to have a better, more in tune motivation for starting businesses than most business people that I've run across and read about. And he really, for like the electric cars, knocked him down because said it's not going to work or anything like that. And he did it because he wanted to save the earth and make the earth habitable for a longer period of time. But as a backup plan, he wanted to make humans multiplanetary. So if we do end up destroying this beautiful home, we'll have someplace else to survive at least. So I kind of in tune with him on those perspectives.
I also wonder, though, if our space travel might actually help us protect the Earth. And there's kind of at least 2 ways in particular that I'd like to explore with you. One is in 1968, December 25th, you had Apollo 8 go around the moon, and the three astronauts there weren't looking at the moon. They were looking at the Earth, and they took that famous Earthrise picture. And within a couple of years, we had Earth Day for the first time, and the EPA was founded, and there was a big environmental movement. And I'm wondering if space might actually help to improve our perspective of Earth, and that perspective help drive the right actions to protect the Earth. And I was wondering what you thought about that.
Yes, it was very encouraging. Back in the 70s, we saw a lot of steps towards making changes or plans at least, that we needed to do to preserve the Earth. Unfortunately, we've been very slow at doing the major changes that we need to do. And the individuals, we can try to do what we can. I've ordered my first Tesla, so waiting for that to come when I get down to Texas again. And but it takes more than just one person and that kind of stuff. It's got to be a real societal effort, and I'm not sure we're capable of that, but I hope so.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just out of curiosity, which model did you end up getting?
The Y.
Okay.
Yeah, complete. Supposed to be complete self-driving, and my attention for driving is, I noticed, it's hard for me to keep track of everything happening all sides of me, especially driving in Austin. It's just too much going on, so I need help, and I'm hoping that'll give me help to be able to get around safely.
Yeah, I have a friend that has a Tesla. I think it's a Model 3, and he let me ride back with him from Austin to Houston, and I got to drive it for a bit on the full self-driving mode, and it's really amazing. I think you'll be pleased.
Very well. Good news. Thank you.
So did you know that Jeff Bezos also has a space company?
Oh yes, and they've managed to send some rockets up and land them, which is pretty cool, but not quite as quickly as SpaceX.
Yes, there's definitely a very much difference in terms of urgency between the two companies, and visibility, and kind of the aggressiveness.
Yes, there is. Yeah, I see all kinds of things on SpaceX on YouTube, but very rarely anything on the Jeff Bezos company. Can't remember the name now.
Oh, Blue Origin.
Blue Origin. Yeah, Blue Origin.
Last year, Jeff Bezos had an event where he unveiled their Blue Moon lunar lander that they got accepted as being one of the three, teams to develop that human lunar lander system. And, he talked at length about his visions for space, and they're quite a bit different than Elon Musk. What Jeff Bezos says is the Earth is the only place in the solar system that's even remotely, it's like the absolute best place for humans. And there's no place that even comes close to it in the rest of the solar system. And what he envisioned was trying to move all of the Earth farming activities from Earth into space, such as energy production. Only about 1/1700th billionth. You could put some things of solar panels up there in space. They would have 24/7, sunlight, and then figure out some way to get the power down here to Earth, as an example, to move like the mining and manufacturing and things like that into space. And I was just wondering what you thought about this vision as well.
Yeah, there's been a number of proposed ideas on how to protect the Earth and move the activities that cause so much harm to it into a big space station or you know, power production and manufacturing, other asteroids and that kind of stuff, which sounds great, but I hope they'd make more progress and actually offer something we could consider seriously. And so I wish him good luck in doing that.
Yeah, he did talk a little bit about that. He said, you know, whenever Amazon got started, it would have been impossible to create without having like UPS and without having the internet and without having, you know, credit card payment systems. Without those three things, it would have been impossible to create an online bookstore. But with those three things, it was something that you could do relatively cheaply. And he likes to point out that it's really the cost is so prohibitive in space to do anything that you don't have the same amount of entrepreneurship in space. A couple of people in college can't get together and start a space company, as an example, just because the cost is so high. And what he thinks is that he just wants to build that baseline infrastructure that would allow for startups to be developed, and those are ultimately what's going to drive the solutions. It's kind of interesting.
Yes, well, go for it. Yeah. The one of the things I've seen just yesterday, I waited for about 15 minutes as a coal train went through the center of town here, and I was trying to get across town. You have to wait for it. It just went on and on and on and on, and that's definitely not helping our climate situation at all. It's still such large use of coal for energy, for producing electricity and that kind of stuff. And I've tried to have an idea of when I got a house, and I finally rented a house a couple of years ago. I got kicked out of my apartment because the developer wanted to make more money and flip the property very quick. So he said, you had to move out for 4 months. I had nowhere to go. So I, just by luck, ran across this house that was for rent. And I asked the landlord, you know, could I put solar panels on the roof? And he said, well, just let me know, talk to the person who's going to do it before I do it. So I was really planning to do that. But then when I checked with our local utility company, we understand that I can't, if I have excess electricity, I can't send it back in the system for my neighbors to use. I can only get credits to use the power company's power. And just very, very discouraging to try to go and actually do some local power generation, which I got to have a perfect spot. The roof is perfect for it. I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm hoping that they'll change that. My understanding earlier was that they would encourage other sources of power, of electricity, but that's not the current ideology for the power companies in Austin, anyway.
Okay, I was going to ask if that was Minnesota or Austin, but this is Texas you're talking about.
That's right. Yeah, got beautiful sunshine in Austin a lot of the year. So it'd be if I could, you know, sell my electricity for my neighbors to use, and I could pay for the solar panels quite quickly. But I can't do that, so it's a disincentive to actually go that route at this point. So hope it changes.
Yeah, I wonder if there's anything we could do to make that happen. If there's anybody that's like working on updating the policy.
Yeah, it's actually I looked into this. Actually, it was with your uncle. We Men in Mission group went to visit the main control facility for the city of Austin, and that question came up, and they said that yes, you can will make it so you can sell the energy, excess energy, back to the utility. But that's apparently has changed in the between that tour and now. So it's toward the negative as far as I'm concerned. So hopefully you can switch it back again. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, especially whenever people take on that burden of making these ecologically beneficial choices, we should do everything to make their path smoother, not put barriers in it.
Amen. Amen.
So whenever you think about humanity way out in the future, let's say like 500 years from now, which is basically about the same length of time as since Christopher Columbus came to the Americas, but looking at that in the future, how do you envision humanity to be? I mean, like, are we only on the Earth making little trips to space, or do you think we've genuinely like expanded out into the solar system? What do you think can happen?
Well, I was very discouraged when after the first moon landing in '69 and then the last one in '72 that we just kind of abandoned space exploration because we have so many problems here on Earth, and a lot of what's our problems here on Earth are due to excessive population, and we still are messing up badly there. And a lot of the children I've seen, unfortunately, in all parts of the world I've traveled, there's so many children who have biological parents, but they don't have real parents, and that's a real big concern we have to address if we're going to get any progress at all. But I don't see any hope in that area. But I mean, the technology's there, but the political will is not.
I wonder about the overpopulation, because I visited both Tokyo and Mumbai, and the difference between the two is very, very startling. And I think Tokyo has more people, but it's clean, efficient. You feel fairly nice being in Tokyo, but in Mumbai, it's a little bit more. It's dirtier. It's less organized. It feels crowded. And I wonder if it's a question of overpopulation or under organization. If maybe we could, like, we could support the people we have. It's just about organizing a little bit better.
Yeah, there's been efforts to increase food production and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of it's been got a two-edged sword, and we got problems that start from the increased use of fertilizers and special seeds that cannot be reused. That you have to go and buy the seeds from a special company that makes them. It's really getting more difficult, I think, to make progress as a society in supporting increased populations. And one little thing, and some small things, are like the climate change that could ruin the whole thing. And all these interventions we would had to try to address the excess population. We're just too. The Earth isn't made for supporting so many people. Maybe we can move some of the population off, and there's like some of the, I forget the name of the fellow who's got designed these, proposes these great big space colonies on the space stations that rotate, go around the Earth and everything like that, and then just to take vacations down to Earth to enjoy the fantastic place we have here and not destroy it. It sounds pretty appealing to me, but I'm not sure if we've got the will to do that.
Yeah, but I guess so. I mean, what do you think it would take to actually get that will? Like, I mean, what are the steps? Is it just a matter of education, of dialoguing, of people seeing some impending danger? I mean, like, what would it take to actually move things in that direction?
Well, I'm from our past human history. I'm not too encouraged that we have much of a option, and that's kind of why I kind of like the backup plan that Elon Musk has for, at least some of us surviving in other place in the universe or in the solar system for a little while longer. I wish we could save the Earth, but where we're going, I really have doubts that we're going to be able to do that. That we're going to destroy it before we have a big crisis that's going to be irreversible, and we're not going to be able to save it. And it's education that doesn't work really for making individual changes. It says to be a societal change in direction, and you're almost about the only political system that would be able to do it probably be a benevolent dictator. But because right now we got real problems with.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, about the problems that we do have, because, I mean, pretty much it seems like we've technically solved, the production of food, clean water, and energy, and this whole COVID-19 thing has shown how much labor can just be taken off of the market, as you will, and everything still keeps running. And it seems like that all of our problems that we have aren't actually natural problems, but are really from humans. Like they're all human-made problems. And I was wondering if you saw it the same way, or if maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, we have the capability to provide housing, good housing to everybody that's on the planet currently, and enough food too. But we're going to lose that capability if we don't take care of the planet before. That's coming pretty fast in terms of the climate's going to be so bad that we're not going to be able to have the opportunity to save the Earth. So I'm kind of scared, and I saw this coming back in the 70s, and I always thought that I was going to have a family and kids and everything like that, but I just saw so many kids that didn't have real parents. They had biological parents, and they said, well, there's no point in me. My genes aren't that different than anybody else's. There's no point in me producing more kids, producing that kind of a problem. So I adopted a special needs child, and his mom had been drinking while pregnant, and I don't know what he never knew his father. So he was really had many strikes against him, and he ended up dying from stomach cancer when he was 25. And so it's kind of my effort of trying to take care of the children that are here without parents already was tried real hard, but it was virtually impossible. We needed to go make sure that every child that's born today is a wanted child, and then we got maybe a chance to turn things around. But again, the political will to make those hard decisions are just not there.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, like you talked about, you have kids with biological parents, but not with real parents. And, basically anybody can have kids. There's no prerequisite to having kids, right? There's no training course or certification you have to go through, or, there's no a test you have to pass or certification you have to get. And I was just wondering, if it makes sense to maybe require something like that before, like, should people have to get like a child license before having children, to kind of prove that they're at a level that they can take care of them and that they're prepared for it, and that type of thing.
Well, probably more basic than that is to make all biological parents decide they want to be parents before they can conceive, and then just I think we have the technology. We could actually make every boy and girl when they're born sterile, and then with the mechanism to reverse that when they want to have children. But both the man and the woman would have to take this pill to reverse it for 365 days without fail. Then you've got people who really want their children and have got some of the capabilities, the gumption and the stick-to-itiveness that it takes to be a parent, real parent, and I think that would make a big planet. I mean, big positive impact on our population. And the pill would be completely free, so there'd be no economic disincentive. It'd be equal for everybody. You just pick people who really want to be parents to be able to conceive children. And I think technologically that's not that difficult to do, but politically very difficult.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting if you look at birth rates across the globe. I think the trend you see is that in the wealthier country, birth rates are declining. In Japan, they actually have a shrinking population. In Europe and North America, they have the birth rates lower than you need to stay at the same level. And if it wasn't for immigration, you'd actually see declining populations there. And the places where you're seeing the birth rates, the growth in the population and the higher birth rates are really in the poorer areas, Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, Asia. And so, if you're looking at global population, it's not really you would have to get buy-in from those countries to kind of address it. And it's so easy for one country not to agree to that. And just like with the whole climate issue and carbon, it wouldn't do any good.
So it is pessimistic, that's for sure. Yeah. But what was I going to say? I forgot. Maybe I'll think of it later. So anyway,
yesterday I was talking to somebody in Togo, Africa.
Oh yeah, you mentioned.
It was a really neat experience, and it just kind of inspired me to try to maybe talk to somebody in every single country to get more of a global perspective. But one of the things that kind of occurred to me was this gentleman in Togo, if he had reliable internet access and power and a computer, he could essentially be as much of a worker in like the Western world as anybody else could. And SpaceX has that project called Starlink to provide high-speed internet access all around the world. And I was wondering what you thought about as that gets deployed, and it sort of like provides a higher base level for global engagement, global education, global economic attainment. If maybe you see these poor areas becoming wealthier, and then their birth rates would also fall.
Yes, that's been seen in a number of places and a number of times. That does help reorientate the parents' vision for their children. I know when my parents grew up, my dad especially, he worked on the farm, and the idea was to have lots of hands to support the entire family. And now we're able to produce what we need, you know, in terms of manufacturing and that with many fewer hands involved. We need all the mines still. We need good mines, not ones that have been messed up by alcohol and drugs and that kind of stuff. So if we can, because we've just taken care of so many of our population that been damaged to a point that they cannot function to really serve themselves, let alone society. So really hope that we can address that somehow, that there'd be a natural decrease in population. One of the big problems is that our current economic system is market-based, and I just read this disgusting stuff where they want, some of these companies are encouraging, they're all looking at just numbers of people for markets, and not really looking at the quality of their lives for many people in there that they're trying to sell their product to, whatever it is. And that really is part of the problem in terms of encouraging excessive population we can't take care of, because it's going to be our market. We're going to sell our products there and get rich. You know, greed is a big problem in our society. Actually, worldwide, there's very few places that don't have that problem.
Yeah, it's this attitude of let me become rich first, and then I'll start worrying about the world's problems.
Yeah.
So if it was safe and affordable, would you have an interest in going into space yourself?
Well, I mean, I've been following, you know, the adventures in space and for a long time, and I remember getting my first telescope, and just, you know, I think it was 8 years old or something like that, and it was just a refractor scope. It was pretty bad, but I got to see the craters on the moon, and it was so fascinating. I like the thought of exploring, and I don't know if I certainly I haven't got the capability now to be the first people to go anywhere, because it'd have to make it pretty comfy probably go anywhere in space. But I wouldn't mind. Yeah, be fun, I think.
How far would you go? Are you thinking like just a little suborbital flight on maybe a Virgin Galactic craft or Blue Origin's New Shepard, or like maybe a week long in orbit, or to the moon and back, or maybe a multi-year journey to Mars and back?
I was thinking about using a wormhole or something to get someplace really far away, or whatever, you know, some strange thing they find in string theory that's going to work out, or whether it's still a little slow. The traveling time and all that, I guess I'd be a little impatient going such a long trip, so I'd like to find some faster way to get around, and I would go a lot of places.
Yeah, I wonder how much of physics will be reinterpreted or reunderstood from the moment that we start having observers in many places in the solar system, kind of, with that new perspective and that new information. If maybe we could detect kind of anomalies in what we think of as being space, and if maybe there's a way to get around quicker. So that,
Yeah, we thought we knew everything about physics, you know, a few hundred years ago, and a lot of things have changed in that time. So I think if we have enough good minds, we could maybe find something even more astounding than what we found already.
I know. I think about something as simple and fundamental as electromagnetism. That was only discovered 300, 400 years ago. And, you know, it was really only in the past 100 years that we really learned how to use it in any productive way. Uh, I mean, and this call would be impossible without understanding electromagnetism.
That's right. That's right. It's a lot of good things have happened. I think some bad things too, unfortunately. And human relations, that's the hardest part. Getting that right, so everybody can be productive and be inquisitive and explore their the world in many different ways.
I think you know, one problem with human relations today is um, how different all of our lives are from each other. I mean, if you look back like 100 years ago, I think most people were like on farms, and you know, their lives were very similar to each other. You know, across the world, but now, uh, you know, the job I do at work, um, I doubt I could really explain it to anybody. And the job that other people do, I really have no basis to understand that. And then you see like these really wealthy people who don't seem to be doing anything, and you see these really poor people working really, really hard. I mean, it's just like the whole, you know, it seems like a big a lottery. Like life is a lottery type of situation.
Yeah, there's lots of things that are not fair. That's for sure.
I live right next to an airport, and whenever the planes fly over, it gets really loud. Don't know if it comes through on the phone.
Yeah, yeah. So you live in the north part of Houston, you said, though, right? Yeah, I used to.
I do. There's the David Wayne Hooks Airport right next to
Oh,
me, and you have like the corporate jets that go into there, and the little Cessnas, uh, and it's kind of neat. Um, Before this COVID-19 thing was caused the lockdown, I was working on getting my pilot's license.
oh.
So every time I see a Cessna go overhead, I feel a little jealous.
Yeah, I've lived in Houston a couple of times. One time I lived across the street from Hobby Airport, so I was just able to walk to the airport and get on a plane and take off. But it wasn't too noisy because most of the planes took off to the south of where I was. So I can understand the disturbance there. But
Um, well, I really appreciate your time. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
no, I saw the launch today of Starlink 11 or 12, whichever way you want to count it, and 60 more satellites up for Starlink. And up here, I have to come to the park. Now I'm in my car here at the park because it's the best cell phone signal that I can get. And I'm waiting for Starlink so I can stay at home or stay in my apartment and talk with you and others. So hopefully it'll be functional up here very, very soon.
I'm looking forward to that too. If it had happened before the COVID-19 thing, I think I would have gotten an RV with like the Starlink receiver and just go from place to place,
Yeah,
camping
there
out.
you go. Okay, well, thank you so much for interviewing me and talking with me, and we'll hopefully we'll be staying in touch and we'll be looking at what everybody else has got to say about our situation in space.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Erik. You have a good day
Okay, you
then.
too. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.